The last man sentenced to death by the Roman Senate waited 9 days before anyone showed up to carry out his execution. He was held in a damp cell deep within the city's labyrinthine underground prison system, known as the Mamertinum. The air was heavy with the stench of mold and decay, while the flickering torches above cast eerie shadows on the walls. A faint drizzle seeped through the cracks in the stone floor, mingling with the musty scent to create a pungent aroma that clung to everything. What if this execution had been botched, leaving the condemned man alive? Would his fate have changed course entirely? Or would he still have faced an uncertain future in the aftermath of Rome's brutal campaign against Carthage? If you're listening to this to fall asleep, that's exactly why I make these. Drop a comment and tell me where you are and what time it is. I read every single one. As the drizzle continued its slow trickle into the cell, the man's thoughts turned to his life outside these walls. The warm sun on his skin, the cool breeze in his hair, and the bustling streets of Carthage. The scent of burning frankincense wafts through the air, carried on the gentle breeze that stirs the palm fronds overhead. You breathe it in deeply, feeling the familiar comfort of the pungent aroma as you make your way along the narrow streets of Carthage's Baissa Hill neighborhood. The city is alive and bustling around you, but for now, all attention seems to be focused on the nearby temple of Tanit, where a sacrifice is about to take place. The air is heavy with anticipation, the smell of incense mingling with the scent of fresh bread baking in the nearby ovens. You weave through the crowds, dodging vendors selling everything from intricately woven baskets to gleaming bronze trinkets. As you push your way closer to the temple, the sound of chanting and cymbals fills the air. The priests are preparing for a major sacrifice, one that requires all hands on deck, and everyone wants to be there to witness it. You spot a group of women from the nearby marketplace gathered near the entrance, their brightly colored tunics fluttering in the breeze as they murmur among themselves. One of them catches your eye, an elderly woman named Aisha, whose wispy gray hair is tied back beneath a neat linen cap. She's busy arranging a selection of fresh olives and dates on a small tray, her hands moving with practiced ease as she prepares for the ritual feast that will follow the sacrifice. You watch as she expertly balances a few particularly large olives atop a pyramid of smaller ones, using just enough olive oil to hold them in place. Your gaze wanders back out into the crowd as you continue on your way toward the temple, where a group of men are busy setting up a makeshift altar beneath the shade of a nearby cedar tree. The air is thick with incense and expectation. It's moments like these that remind you why Carthage is so revered throughout the Mediterranean world. As you press closer to the action, you notice how different everyone looks today. Some have worn their finest clothes for the occasion. Others seem content in more practical garb, clearly focused on getting the sacrifice over with as quickly and efficiently as possible. Amidst all this chaos, you spot a young man, probably not much older than 20, standing slightly apart from the rest of the crowd. He's fidgeting nervously near the edge of the gathering, his eyes darting back and forth between Aisha and some other figures in the distance. You sense that he might be new to these types of rituals, perhaps even a recent immigrant to Carthage. Whatever it is, you can't help but feel for him, someone clearly out of their element among the city's seasoned residents. You continue on toward the temple entrance, pushing through a group of excited children who have managed to slip past their chaperones and are now clamoring around Aisha's tray. As you make your way into the cool shade within the temple itself, the air grows thick with the scent of myrrh and burning incense, so overpowering that for a moment it blots out all other sensory input. A faint rustling noise catches your attention. One of the temple attendants, carefully sweeping up stray dust motes from between the intricately carved stone pillars. The sound is soothing in its familiarity. You can almost imagine hearing this same soft swishing whenever someone cleans a nearby statue or sweeps away crumbs from an altarpiece. Inside, everything seems meticulously arranged, as if for some grander display than mere sacrifice and ritual feast. You find yourself wandering through the temple's colonnaded halls, trying to absorb all these details without getting too caught up in the excitement outside. There are several people scattered about the interior spaces. A few elderly women engaged in quiet conversation near one of the altar platforms. Another individual, possibly an official or assistant priest, busy examining some nearby scrolls. Your footsteps carry you past rows of gleaming white marble and brightly colored tiles, beneath arches carved with intricate patterns that seem to dance across their surfaces. The air remains heavy with incense and anticipation. It's as if the very atmosphere itself is building up toward something just beyond your grasp, a feeling not unlike walking through an unfinished courtyard on a chilly autumn morning. The more you wander within these temple walls, the more you notice subtle nuances of light, tiny shadows cast by each intricately carved pillar or cornice, reflecting off the polished surfaces like miniature echoes. You catch yourself pausing in front of an especially beautifully rendered image, almost life-sized and exquisitely detailed, depicting a majestic Tanit, Queen of Carthage's heavens. Your eyes linger on this figure, serene, watchful, with outstretched arms embracing not just her subjects but the very land itself. She seems to embody something deep within these people, some collective longing for balance or harmony that transcends individual lives and spans generations. As you stand before this majestic statue, the warm sunlight dancing across its intricate details seems to bring it to life. You feel a shiver run down your spine as you gaze upon her tranquil expression, her eyes seeming to hold secrets and stories of ancient Carthage's triumphs and tribulations. The city around you stirs with activity, its soundscape woven from the cacophony of merchants hawking their wares, artisans hammering away at their crafts, and pedestrians hurrying about their daily business. The scent of fresh bread wafts through the air, enticing your senses as it carries on its gentle breeze. But amidst this bustling metropolis, you sense an undercurrent of tension. Carthage is a city born from conflict, forged in the crucible of war with Rome and shaped by the indomitable will of her people. You can almost feel the collective weight of their struggles bearing down upon them like a physical force. As you wander through the narrow streets, your footsteps echo off the imposing stone buildings that seem to stretch on forever. The air is alive with whispers, hushed conversations among neighbors, traders haggling over prices, and the soft chanting of priests offering prayers to the gods. Every sound blends into a rich tapestry, each thread weaving together to create an intricate narrative of this ancient city's daily life. Your journey takes you through the heart of Carthage, where the mighty temple complex dedicated to Tanit rises above all other structures. This sacred place is both sanctuary and seat of power, its high priestess, like the serene figure at whose feet you stood earlier, wielding significant influence over the city's spiritual and temporal affairs. You notice that many citizens seem drawn to this area, their faces filled with a quiet reverence as they pause before the temple gates. Some approach the entrance, fingers tracing intricate patterns etched into stone. Others leave offerings, small figurines of clay or ceramic vessels filled with incense. The air around you thickens with anticipation as you watch a procession of priests emerge from within, their ceremonial robes billowing behind them like wings. As they move through the streets, people fall silent in respect, allowing the high priestess to make her way toward the city's center. She is flanked by attendants carrying ornate thrones and litters adorned with garlands of fresh flowers, an air of opulence that tempers the austerity of her station. As she approaches a grand courtyard, you catch sight of a majestic procession awaiting her arrival. Dignitaries from neighboring cities, their retinues at attention behind them. This is no ordinary gathering. Every detail speaks to its significance, from the choice of sacred beasts accompanying each delegation to the elaborate headdresses worn by guests. With measured steps, the high priestess ascends the dais reserved for her. She raises her arms in a gentle gesture of benediction, as if embracing not only those gathered before her, but also the very earth beneath their feet. The atmosphere is heavy with expectation. Whispers of an impending treaty between Carthage and its neighboring states spread through the crowd like wildfire. With each passing moment, the tension builds, until finally, in a voice both soothing and commanding, she begins to speak, calling upon the gods to witness this pledge of peace and cooperation. As her words carry across the square, you feel an unseen shift within the city, like ripples spreading from a stone cast into still water. In that instant, something is awakened, or perhaps it was always there, waiting to be acknowledged by those willing to listen. The collective longing for balance and harmony spoken of earlier seems to resonate through every heart in Carthage, an unseen thread binding its people together across generations. This realization brings you a step closer to the essence of this enigmatic city, that even amidst turmoil, it's possible for communities to come together, not merely as conquerors or vanquished, but as fellow travelers bound by shared hopes and aspirations. The scent of freshly baked bread wafts through the air, carried by the gentle morning breeze that rustles the awnings of the market stalls. You breathe in deeply, feeling the warmth spread across your chest as you step out into the bustling streets of Carthage. It's early still, only a few hours past dawn, and yet the city is already abuzz with activity. People of all ages hurry to complete their morning routines before the heat becomes unbearable, their footsteps echoing off the stone buildings that line the narrow alleys. You weave through the crowds, taking in the cacophony of sounds. Merchants hawking their wares, cooks clanging pots and pans in the kitchen behind you, children chattering excitedly as they chase one another through the market. Your stomach growls with hunger, reminding you that breakfast is long overdue. As a resident of Carthage, your daily meals are shaped by the city's rich cultural heritage, a blend of Phoenician traditions and African influences that has created a unique culinary landscape. You make your way to the nearby bakery, where the sweet aroma of freshly baked bread lingers in every corner. Inside, rows of gleaming white loaves line the shelves, their crusts golden brown from being placed directly on the hot coals of the oven. The baker, an older man named Ahiram, greets you with a warm smile as he slides a still warm loaf onto your counter. You take it home to enjoy alongside some fresh cheese and olives, staples in any Carthaginian breakfast. As you sit down at the small wooden table outside your family's dwelling, the sounds of the city recede into the background. The soft crunch of bread beneath your teeth is accompanied by the faint tang of salt from the cheese, while the brininess of the olives adds a subtle depth to each bite. Your mother joins you on the bench, sipping a cup of hot coffee, an import from across the Mediterranean that has become increasingly popular among Carthaginians. You chat with your mother about the day ahead, exchanging quiet comments and laughter as the morning sun rises over the rooftops. The light is still soft enough to be pleasant, casting long shadows through the narrow streets and illuminating the intricate carvings on the facades of the buildings. You watch it creep across the walls of your family's dwelling, a small but sturdy apartment nestled in one of Carthage's many residential areas. As you eat, you ponder the upcoming festivities. A local festival to honor the goddess Tanit is set for that afternoon, and preparations are already underway throughout the city. Your mother mentions something about attending the ceremonies at the temple nearby, while your father speaks with colleagues from his merchant guild about a new shipment arriving in port. Their words fade into the background as you focus on finishing breakfast, not out of impatience, but because every bite is savored for its own sake. The texture of the bread changes subtly as it absorbs the olive oil. The cheese yields to each gentle nibble, releasing its creamy essence. Even as your stomach begins to feel full and contented, there's still a lingering anticipation about what the day might bring. The sun climbs higher in the sky, casting longer shadows across the rooftops now that morning has truly begun. People hurry along with more purpose, some carrying small bundles of goods for sale at market stalls, while others chat eagerly on their way to work or other appointments. You get up from your meal and join them, feeling a faint breeze ruffle the hair around your temples. The sounds of the city grow louder as you make your way through its streets. Children playing in the alleys, artisans hammering away at their wares, merchants loudly extolling the virtues of various goods on display. Amidst all this activity, one particular noise stands out, a low-pitched chant that carries above the rest. You quicken your pace as you draw closer to its source, a group of pilgrims gathered near the temple entrance. They hold small clay vessels filled with offerings for Tanit, gifts of grain, oil, and wine meant to appease her benevolent spirit. Their leader raises his voice in song, leading them through an intricate litany while they move forward toward the temple's steps. Your path takes you past this procession, though not too close. There are other matters that require attention before the festival can be fully enjoyed. You make your way toward a nearby market stall, one run by a family friend who sells various goods from across North Africa and beyond. He greets you warmly as he hands over two small loaves of bread fresh out of his oven. You spend some time chatting with him, exchanging stories about your family's daily lives while listening to the sounds of Carthage go on around you, a constant tapestry woven from laughter, commerce, and communal activity. Even in this brief respite, however, there's always something waiting beyond the horizon. A new shipment arriving at port, concerns over trade policies with distant nations, disputes among local leaders about how best to allocate resources. As morning wears on into late morning, your thoughts grow more abstract, wandering through market stalls and narrow alleys in your mind as you consider what might come next. Your stomach's contentment lingers from breakfast, now mixed with a subtle anxiety for the future. I find myself standing by the window of our modest dwelling, gazing out at the bustling streets below. Merchants and traders hurry about, their conversations punctuated by the clanging of pots and pans from the nearby market stalls. The sun beats down on my skin, warming the worn stone walls that have been a part of our family for generations. As I watch, a group of young men passes by, their laughter carrying on the breeze as they argue over something, probably a bet or a game won in one of the city's taverns. They glance up at me with a mixture of curiosity and amusement, but quickly look away, returning to their lively discussion. My mind drifts back to breakfast, savoring the memory of my mother's cooking. We sat on the rooftop balcony this morning, enjoying the cool breeze that usually precedes the heat of the day. The table was set with a simple yet elegant spread. Olives and olive oil, fresh bread still warm from the oven, and as always a small bowl of garam sauce to add flavor to our meal. My father joined us later, his face creased by fatigue but a hint of optimism on his lips. He spoke about the day's prospects for trade with Rome, their merchants often looking for deals in olive oil, wine, and other luxury goods that Carthage produces in abundance. Our family has always been involved in this side business, not as primary traders themselves, but rather by providing storage facilities and facilitating connections between Roman buyers and our local suppliers. The memory of his words now triggers a ripple effect within me. Thoughts about the war with Rome begin to surface, like ripples on a pond disturbed by a stone. We've heard whispers in the market, rumors, really, that Rome is planning an invasion, eager to crush Carthage's growing influence and secure its own trade routes. My mother had tried to reassure us during breakfast, reminding me of our family's long-standing relationships with Roman merchants who genuinely value their partnership with our city. "They need us," she said softly, as if trying not to wake the sleeping demons that lurk at the edges of every Carthaginian life these days. My stomach knots up once more as I think about what might come next for our family, for our city, and for the world beyond its walls. Yet amidst this unease lies a peculiar sense of detachment. It's almost as if my thoughts are floating above me, detached from the body that carries them. I wander over to the small altar in our living room, where an image of Tanit, goddess of the moon and protector of the city, stands watch. I've always felt drawn to her symbolisms: fertility, growth, renewal. A quiet reassurance spreads through me as my eyes meet hers. Perhaps it's a childish wish for protection from the storm brewing on the horizon. The silence within our home is suddenly broken by the sound of footsteps outside. My mother has gone out into the street, no doubt to check on some errand or gossip with a neighbor. I watch her disappear into the crowd below, feeling both comforted and isolated at the same time, caught between a desire for control over my life's unfolding path and an understanding that fate is unpredictable. For now, though, routine takes hold. It's almost midday in Carthage. The hot sun overhead signals that soon enough people will seek refuge from its direct rays. As I return to the window, adjusting my position to escape the glare on the floor below, a faint outline of conversation catches my attention, an exchange between two men who seem deep in discussion about something significant. Curiosity gets the better of me, Slowly making my way down through our dwelling's narrow corridors and out into the crowded streets, I lose myself among the throngs of people. In this maze-like city where history is woven into every brick, it's easy to get caught up in rumors or theories, but there's something compelling about being close enough to overhear snippets of conversation that might hold secrets, whispers from an unspoken truth waiting to be unearthed. As I thread my way through the market stalls and alleys, memories begin to collide with speculation. Stories passed down through generations of Carthaginians, accounts from Roman friends turned wary allies, even ancient myths we've learned to revere as much for their symbolism as their historical accuracy. What do these scattered pieces tell me? Perhaps nothing concrete, yet they weave together into an intricate tapestry that's both daunting and fascinating. With the air thickening, heat rising off the stone beneath my feet, I pause at a particularly crowded corner of the market to take in its sights and sounds. Merchants hawking their wares, children playing near the entrance of one of our city's many temples, the sweet scent of fresh bread carried on the breeze. Amidst this vibrant backdrop of everyday life, it becomes almost impossible not to ponder what might be lurking beyond Carthage's visible horizon, secrets hidden in plain sight that only reveal themselves under specific conditions. The day wears on, my footsteps carrying me further into its uncharted territories. As an outsider looking inward at the very fabric of our society, I begin to notice a curious phenomenon. Even amidst war whispers and anxious speculation about Rome's intentions, life continues with unyielding resilience in Carthage, driven by tradition, bound by social conventions that keep people tied together despite external threats. Within this swirling whirlpool of memories past and present, the city itself remains an elusive entity, impossible to grasp fully. The scent of old parchment wafts through the air, carrying with it whispers of forgotten stories and half-remembered names. You find yourself standing amidst a bustling market square in ancient Carthage, surrounded by the vibrant colors and cacophonous sounds of daily life. People hurry past you, intent on their various tasks, while others pause to haggle over prices or exchange pleasantries with neighbors. The air is thick with the smell of fresh bread wafting from a nearby bakery, its enticing aroma mingling with the pungent scent of olives and fish from the market stalls. You notice an elderly scribe, his back bent beneath the weight of years, carefully transcribing text onto a worn scroll. His hands move deftly over the parchment as he dips quill tips into inkwells, the soft scratching sound filling the air like a gentle rain on dry earth. As you watch, a young apprentice approaches the scribe with a query, asking about some minor discrepancy in the text's chronology. The scribe listens intently, his eyes narrowing as he considers the question before offering a measured response. You realize that this humble market square serves as more than just a marketplace. It also houses an impromptu repository of historical knowledge and cultural wisdom. Scholars and scribes congregate here to share their research, debate interpretations, and discuss ongoing projects. The collective energy is palpable, people engaged in lively discussions, occasionally pausing for an exchange or to ask about the meaning behind various symbols. A woman nearby holds an intricately carved wooden box, adorned with small stones representing different years of significant events. She begins explaining its significance to her niece, describing how each stone signifies an important date and its associated historical occurrence. As they speak, you notice that some merchants nearby are displaying peculiar artifacts alongside their everyday wares: miniature figurines in terracotta, intricately crafted wooden carvings representing gods, rare pottery fragments bearing symbols of various deities. You follow the scribe as he continues his work, watching him laboriously copy a text from an original source. He pauses occasionally to correct minor errors or discuss some aspect with nearby colleagues. You learn that this particular manuscript pertains to the history of Carthage's founding and early expansion under its first ruler, Queen Dido. A few rows over, another scribe is engaged in writing on clay tablets, carefully inscribing characters using a stylus while his apprentice attempts to copy the text from a slightly worn papyrus version. The air is filled with an assortment of scents: dust, parchment's faint tang, and wood polish used for preserving wooden artifacts. Your attention drifts toward the nearby market stalls as you hear haggling over prices between merchants selling goods such as rare olives and fresh fish. Prices are negotiated loudly amidst a backdrop of bustling activity: shoppers examining their wares, traders displaying colorful fabrics, precious metals, or intricately crafted items from far-off lands. One stall owner stands out with his bold claims about the medicinal properties of an unusual spice he's selling. You can't help but wonder if its effectiveness might be due more to marketing than actual efficacy. As shoppers continue examining and haggling over prices, it becomes clear that every transaction holds within it a delicate balance between commerce, reputation, and genuine interest in a product. You notice the scribe periodically exchanging coins with his patron for the completion of specific tasks or manuscript sections, small transactions taking place amidst an atmosphere both businesslike and conversational. Nearby scholars occasionally stop to peruse some manuscript displayed on a nearby stand before moving along to their next engagement or discussion group. A merchant near you displays various rare spices alongside intricately carved trinkets, each item accompanied by its price scribbled in neat script beside it. You can practically smell the pungency of certain items and feel the fine texture of others. One customer carefully selects a small quantity of a valuable spice before producing an official-looking seal to verify his purchase. Your focus shifts toward the sounds surrounding you: merchants hawking their wares, people conversing with one another in low tones, and the muffled echoes from far-off market areas. Amidst this cacophony, a lone flute player weaves through the crowd, its melancholic tune weaving itself into the atmosphere, an ephemeral accompaniment to the ongoing commotion. As you stand there amidst the activity of everyday life, you begin to appreciate how these mundane scenes reflect larger truths about human endeavors: the importance placed on preserving knowledge and sharing findings, the delicate balance between commerce and reputation, and the way each individual's daily activities contributes to a tapestry of shared experiences that define their community. As I continued my journey through the ancient city of Carthage, I found myself standing before a grand stone building that seemed out of place among its surroundings. The entrance was guarded by two imposing statues of lions, their eyes seeming to watch me as I approached. A sign above the door read "Archives of Hannibal's Library" in elegant script. The air inside was thick with dust and the musty scent of aged parchment. Row upon row of shelves stretched out before me, each one packed tightly with scrolls and clay tablets containing knowledge gathered from across the known world. I had heard whispers about this library being a treasure trove of information, hidden away in the heart of Carthage. I made my way deeper into the stacks, running my fingers over the spines of the rolls as I searched for something specific. The record keepers who maintained this collection were said to be meticulous and precise, ensuring that every document was catalogued with care. It wasn't long before a soft voice spoke from behind me. "Ah, can we help you find what you're looking for?" A slender figure emerged from the shadows, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun as she smiled at me. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity and a hint of wariness. "I'm just browsing," I replied, gesturing to the shelves around us. "I've heard so much about this library." The record keeper nodded thoughtfully. "We're proud of our collection. But if you'll permit me, might I ask what draws your interest?" As we spoke, a young apprentice approached, carrying a small wooden chest adorned with intricate carvings. He hesitated at the edge of my vision before speaking up. "Master, may I? Our guest seems interested in—" "Go on," the record keeper encouraged him. "Our guest is likely looking for something related to trade routes and commerce," he ventured, eyes darting toward me with a mixture of caution and enthusiasm. "We've been experiencing some issues lately." The record keeper's expression turned thoughtful as she nodded at her apprentice. "Ah, yes, the concerns about mercantile interests in Carthage have indeed come to our attention. You might be interested in speaking with Hanno, one of our senior scholars." She scribbled a note on a small piece of papyrus and handed it to me. "He's been studying the intersection of commerce and reputation within the city." As I tucked the note into my belt pouch, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay hidden in these dusty scrolls and clay tablets. This library seemed to be more than just a repository for knowledge. It was a gateway to understanding the inner workings of Carthage itself. I continued through the stacks, searching for any hint of information related to Hanno's research. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon a small collection of papyri bound with red leather straps. The record keeper had mentioned commerce and reputation. These documents might hold some clues about how they intertwined in Carthage. The texts within were written in an elegant script, detailing the intricate web of relationships between merchants, traders, and government officials. I spotted references to influential families like Hamilcar's clan, and saw subtle allusions to larger economic currents sweeping across the Mediterranean. I was lost in my reading when a gentle cough interrupted me. A tall figure stood just behind me, his piercing blue eyes scanning the shelves as if searching for something specific. "I think you'll find this collection quite enlightening," he said with a warm smile, nodding toward the papyri I held open. "Hanno?" I asked, recognizing him from the note provided by the record keeper. "Oh, indeed. And please call me Hannibal." As we began to converse about his research and my own interests in Carthage's inner workings, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows cast a warm glow over our discussion. The air was filled with an unspoken understanding that these dusty shelves held secrets not just of commerce, but also of reputation and community, all tied intricately together like threads in a rich tapestry. I found myself caught up in Hanno's stories about merchant guilds, local customs, and the delicate dance between commercial interests and civic duty. With each new tale, I began to see Carthage not as just another city, but as a living entity with its own pulse and rhythm, one that echoed through every aspect of life within its walls. But beneath this surface-level understanding lay hidden tensions, power struggles among merchant clans, whispers about corruption in high places, and the ever-present threat from Rome eager to claim Carthage's wealth for itself. These record keepers seemed aware of these currents, but also walked a fine line between knowledge and discretion. Knowing too much could mean losing everything. As I listened to Hanno speak with such passion and conviction about his work, I couldn't help but think that there was more at play here than met the eye. The scent of freshly baked bread wafts through the air, enticing you to follow its source. You're standing in the bustling streets of Carthage, surrounded by people from all walks of life hurrying about their daily business. As you make your way through the crowd, the smell grows stronger, guiding you towards a small bakery tucked away on a side street. Inside, rows of golden brown loaves line the shelves, filling the air with an irresistible aroma that's both familiar and comforting. You watch as Hanno, the baker, expertly shapes a new batch of dough into perfectly round boule, his hands moving deftly despite the weight of exhaustion etched on his face. It's been a long day for everyone in Carthage, what with the recent troubles along the trade routes and the added strain on resources. But Hanno seems immune to it all, lost in the simple pleasure of creating something beautiful from scratch. His hands move swiftly, measuring out just the right amount of yeast before adding it to the dough with a practiced flourish. As you continue to watch, a young girl, probably no more than 10 years old, slips into the bakery, her eyes wide with excitement as she scans the shelves for treats. She spots Hanno's famous sweet bread and lets out a little squeal of delight, almost knocking over a stack of fresh loaves in her enthusiasm. Hanno chuckles good-naturedly, ruffling her hair before handing her a warm pastry straight from the oven. The girl takes it with both hands, her eyes shining as she inhales the sweet scent wafting up from the bread's crispy crust. She looks like she hasn't eaten all day, not uncommon in these times of scarcity and rationing. As you continue to observe this scene unfold before your very eyes, a thought strikes you. What if Hanno's passion for baking isn't just about feeding his family or making ends meet? What if it's something more fundamental, something tied to the land itself? You recall the stories Hanno shared with his fellow artisans and traders at the recent Trade Guild meeting. Stories of how the soil in Carthage is different from anywhere else, rich with nutrients that make even the humblest crops thrive. And yet, despite its fertility, this same land seems cursed, plagued by droughts one moment and floods the next. You consider Hanno's love for his craft as a form of connection to this peculiar earth, an attempt to balance out the natural forces at play in Carthage. The way he shapes dough into perfect loaves is almost meditative, as if he's coaxing forth something from within himself, or perhaps even from the land itself. Hanno glances up, catching your eye for a brief moment before returning his attention to the bread. He seems to sense that you're pondering deeper meanings behind his craft, but says nothing. Instead, he focuses on finishing this batch of loaves, as if driven by some inner compulsion to create something beautiful. The bakery's small windows let in shafts of sunlight that dance across Hanno's face, illuminating the fine lines etched into his skin from years of hard work and worry. He looks like a man carrying an unseen burden, but one he bears with quiet dignity, even when confronted by the challenges facing Carthage. As you watch him finish up this batch, your thoughts turn to his son, Sophronisb's cousin, who's been studying trade routes for years under Hanno's guidance. There was a rumor circulating about him becoming part of an expedition to explore new markets in North Africa. The scent of aged cedarwood wafts through the air as you stand on the worn stone steps leading up to the Temple of Tanit. The morning sun casts a warm glow over the intricate carvings that adorn the temple's facade, their details lost in the gentle haze of dawn. You've been here before, but each time feels like a new experience. The way the light dances across the statues' faces, the soft rustle of leaves from the nearby palm trees. The air is alive with the quiet hum of daily life. Merchants haggling over prices, children playing in the shade, and the distant clang of hammer on anvil as blacksmiths begin their day. As you ascend to the temple's entrance, a young priestess greets you with a gentle smile. Her eyes are downcast, her hands clasped together in prayer, but she nods slightly in recognition. May the goddess watch over us, she whispers, making a small gesture of respect towards Tanit's statue. You nod politely and continue into the temple, your footsteps echoing off the stone walls as you make your way deeper into the sacred space. The air inside is cooler than outside, filled with the scent of incense and old dust. You take a seat on one of the worn wooden benches that line the rear wall, trying to get comfortable in the dim light. Your eyes wander around the temple, taking in the familiar sights, Tanit's statue at the far end, her face serene, the intricately carved stone pedestals supporting offerings to other deities, and the soft glow emanating from the torches that line the walls. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows on the ceiling above, making it seem as though the gods themselves are watching over you. You notice a small group gathered near the entrance, their voices hushed in conversation. They're discussing something with great urgency, their faces tense, their hands gesturing animatedly as they speak. You can't quite make out what's being said, but the air is thick with an undercurrent of worry. As you sit there trying to tune into the conversation, a faint scratching noise catches your attention. It's coming from near Tanit's statue, a soft scraping sound that seems almost like fingernails on stone. You turn towards it, intrigued, and notice a small inscription etched into the pedestal, Statue de Descent. You frowned slightly as you read the words, wondering what they mean. The statues of gods are missing. It's an unusual phrase, but perhaps there's some significance to it that escapes your understanding. The priestess approaches you once more, her eyes fixed on Tanit's statue as if searching for something. Excuse me, she says quietly, I think I'll just check a few things. Her hands flutter over the pedestal, feeling each stone seam and crevice with increasing unease. You watch her, puzzled by the scene unfolding before you. What could possibly be amiss in this sacred space? The priestess's eyes flicker towards yours for an instant, almost as if seeking reassurance or understanding, but she says nothing more and instead continues to inspect Tanit's pedestal with growing intensity. As the moments tick by, a subtle tension begins to build within you. It's not just the mystery surrounding the missing statues that troubles you, it's also the sense of disquiet emanating from those gathered near the entrance. Their hushed conversations now seem tinged with an undercurrent of concern, as if they're all waiting for something that hasn't happened yet. The scratching noise persists, a steady background hum in your mind. You find yourself wondering whether this temple's statues are truly missing or merely misplaced, and what implications might such an event hold. But the priestess seems to be handling it with quiet professionalism, her hands moving deliberately over each stone as if searching for something hidden. The morning wears on, bathed in a soft haze of sunlight filtering through the high windows above. Shadows dance across Tanit's statue, but you can't shake off the feeling that something is amiss here. As you stand there trying to shake off the feeling that something is amiss, a gentle breeze stirs through the air, carrying with it the sweet scent of frankincense and myrrh from the nearby temple. The priestesses are preparing for another day of rituals and offerings, their chanting rising above the murmur of the city awakening around them. You've been assigned to help Tanit's high priestess, Azura, with her daily tasks, but so far your attention has been consumed by the eerie feeling that something is off about this statue. You try to focus on the intricately carved stone pedestal beneath it, adorned with symbols of fertility and protection, but your gaze keeps drifting back to Tanit's imposing form. Azura approaches you, her long dark hair wrapped in a neat bun at the nape of her neck, as she gestures for you to follow her. "We have work to do," she says curtly, already moving towards the temple doors. You trail behind her, trying to keep pace with her purposeful strides. The interior of the temple is dimly lit, but the morning light streaming in through the windows casts a kaleidoscope of shadows on the walls, making it seem as if Tanit herself is alive and watching you from multiple angles. The air inside is thick with incense and the faint scent of something else, almost like damp earth. As Azura leads you to her chambers within the temple's complex, you catch a glimpse of one of the priestesses hastily wiping down a surface near the statue. She seems nervous, glancing around as if worried that someone might be watching. You exchange a curious glance with Azura, but she merely purses her lips and hastens your pace. Her chambers are small and sparsely furnished, a simple altar in one corner for making offerings to Tanit, and rows of shelves filled with dusty scrolls containing ancient texts on mysticism and divination. In the center of the room stands a beautifully crafted wooden desk, adorned with intricate patterns that seem almost recent. "You've noticed it too," Azra says quietly as you both reach the desk. On its surface lies an unrolled scroll, partially illuminated by a sliver of sunlight streaming through a narrow window above. You nod carefully, eyeing the priestess's expression for any sign of what's troubling her. "This is one of Tanit's sacred texts," she says softly, tapping the scroll with a slender finger. "It has been missing since last night and now it seems to be distorted." The words seem hesitant on your lips, distorted. "What do you mean?" Azura turns to face you, her eyes serious. "When I went to retrieve Tanit's sacred offerings for the morning ceremony, this scroll was already here, unrolled and as if someone had been reading it intently." You exchange a perplexed glance with each other. Who could have gained access to these chambers? And what might they be searching for in Tanit's texts? Your train of thought is interrupted by a muffled cry from outside the temple. Azura immediately springs into action, hurrying towards one of the windows to peer out at the city below. "What's happening?" you ask, curiosity getting the better of your caution as you follow her gaze. "It seems another statue has been stolen," she mutters between gritted teeth. One of Tanit's precious guardians from the temple of Astarte. The revelation sends a shiver down your spine. You and Azura exchange worried glances, but it's what comes next that seals your resolve. A faint whisper seems to echo through the temple halls, almost like a voice in the darkness. We are not alone here. As the whisper seems to fade away, the air grows thick with anticipation. You and Azura exchange a look, and without needing to say a word, you both know what needs to be done. The faint hint of unease in your friend's eyes tells you that she's thinking the same thing. This could be connected to the missing statues. With newfound determination, you nod at each other and begin to move through the temple, careful not to make any noise as you investigate further. Your footsteps echo off the stone walls, but they're soft compared to the weight of your concern. The feeling that you're being watched settles in the pit of your stomach like a cold stone. You reach an entrance hall with pillars carved into intricate designs of sea serpents and other mythological creatures. Ahead of you lies a grand corridor lined with statues, their faces serene but lifeless. Your eyes scan each one, searching for any hint of what might have happened to the missing ones. As you move closer to examine a statue more closely, Azra notices something odd. It's not just a simple marble or limestone figure. The pedestal beneath is adorned with symbols etched into its surface, an intricate mix of Phoenician and Punic writing that only adds to your unease. "What does this mean?" she whispers, her voice barely audible over the hum of the wind outside. You study it carefully before realizing these are more than just decorative marks, they're a warning. A faint shiver runs down your spine as you recall stories about curses tied to temple artifacts and statues. "This is no ordinary artwork," you say quietly, trying not to draw any unwanted attention from whatever might be listening. With each passing moment, the silence feels oppressive, like it's heavy with anticipation or perhaps even a malevolent presence waiting for its cue. You can almost sense eyes upon your back, cold, calculating gazes that weigh your every step. Steeling yourself against this growing unease, you move further into the temple complex, searching for more clues about what has happened to the missing statues and who might be behind it all. As you navigate through a series of narrow corridors with high ceilings, your footsteps seem amplified in these confined spaces. Your heart beats faster with each step, but determination pushes forward. Something's bothering you deeply, and finding out why becomes an urgent mission. The air grows thick as you enter what appears to be the temple's inner sanctum, adorned by a grand statue of Astarte herself standing on her pedestal at its center. Around it are smaller statues, each one representing various aspects of life: fertility, war, wisdom. You approach them with caution, searching for any hint that they might have been disturbed or had their pedestals tampered with in some way. Yet as you inspect the base and pedestal of a fertility statue, you're met with an unsettling realization: this is more than just a missing object. It seems to be. Its place on its pedestal feels different, almost like the space itself has been disturbed rather than just the statue being moved. The symbols etched into the stone around it seem darker now, and your mind starts racing with possibilities about what could have caused such an anomaly in this temple dedicated to Astarte, goddess of fertility. Your thoughts are interrupted by a faint sound from deeper within the complex, whispers carried through the hallways as voices grow louder. Your grip on your walking stick tightens instinctively. This is no mere rumor. Something more sinister seems at play here, and you're about to find out what that might be. You exchange a worried look with Azura before deciding it's time for caution. Whatever has happened in these halls may still be present within them. You proceed cautiously towards the sound of voices, walking stick firmly planted by your side as protection against an unknown enemy. The smell of madder root wafts through the air, sweet and earthy, carrying with it memories of countless dye vats and endless hours spent coaxing color from this stubborn plant. You find yourself standing outside a small shop in one of Carthage's many narrow streets, its wooden sign creaking gently in the breeze. Amina's dyes. The sign is adorned with an intricately carved wooden image of a pomegranate, a symbol of fertility and abundance in Punic culture. You push open the door, and a bell above it lets out a soft tinkle as you step inside. The shop is dimly lit, with sunlight struggling to penetrate the narrow windows high up on either side of the entrance. The air inside is thick with the scent of madder root and other plant dyes, mixed with the faint tang of sweat from Amina's own exertions. You blink in adjustment as your eyes adjust to the dim light. Amina herself stands at a large wooden vat, stirring its contents with a long-handled paddle that looks almost like a giant skewer. Her dark hair is tied back in a tight knot, revealing a smudge of madder root on her left cheekbone, a badge of honor from years spent working with the plant. She glances up as you enter, her eyes narrowing slightly behind a pair of spectacles perched on the end of her nose. You watch as Amina expertly stirs the vat's contents, adding just the right amount of lime to balance out the acidity in the madder root. The mixture is slowly beginning to turn a deep crimson, one of the colors most prized by Carthage's textile artisans for its rich, vibrant quality. You notice that the color is already starting to fade slightly as it dries on Amina's worktable nearby. She catches your eye and raises an eyebrow inquiringly. "Ah, you've come to learn about dyeing," she says finally, her voice low and soothing after the din of the outside world. "A noble pursuit indeed, but a frustrating one at times." You take a step closer to the vat as Amina begins explaining the intricacies of madder root extraction. Her hands move deftly as she demonstrates how to carefully separate the dye from its impurities, using nothing more than water and gentle heat. The scent of madder wafts up, mingling with your own sweat. You can feel it on your palms, a sticky residue left over from handling various dyes earlier in the day. As Amina works, she occasionally pauses to wipe her hands on a piece of cloth hanging nearby, leaving behind streaks of crimson and umber. Her fingers move deftly as she continues explaining, pointing out various plant parts and their roles in the dyeing process, though you begin to wonder if it's possible for someone with such delicate-looking fingers to actually wield that paddle so efficiently. You notice Amina occasionally glances around her shop, a look of quiet satisfaction on her face. It is cluttered but well organized, every available surface taken up by various dyes in various stages of completion, some wrapped tightly in cloth, others left loose and vulnerable to the elements. The smell of madder root hangs heavy over everything, mingling with other scents, wool, silk, and the faint tang of animal fat used for conditioning fabrics. As you watch Amina at work, your gaze begins to wander around her shop, taking in the various wooden molds and containers holding different dye vats. Some are filled with a deep blue liquid that seems almost black by contrast. Others hold what looks like water, but is actually an extract from pomegranate rinds used for creating subtle color shifts on fabrics. Eventually, your eyes land back on Amina's hands as she carefully pours the madder root mixture into one of these molds. You notice her fingers are stained a deep crimson, almost purple in some places, and that the dye itself has started to pool at the bottom of the mold like a slow-moving liquid fire. The smell is intoxicating, drawing you further into this dimly lit shop where light seems reluctant to penetrate. You find yourself growing heavy-lidded as Amina continues explaining her craft, each word weaving together with the scent and texture of madder root until it becomes almost impossible to separate one from another. Your breathing slows, your thoughts drifting back to memories of past dye sessions spent poring over intricate patterns on silk fabrics, how some colors seemed alive in their own right, shimmering like an aurora borealis as they changed color with every shift in light. As the sun begins to set outside, casting long shadows across Amina's shop floor, you notice that she has paused mid-sentence. The wooden paddle lies abandoned beside her vat now, and for a moment, just a single heartbeat of time, it seems like everything is frozen still within this small room. Even your own breath appears caught in your throat as the smell of madder root hangs suspended between past, present, and future. But then Amina speaks again, breaking the spell with a quiet chuckle. "It's, I suppose, what I'm trying to say," she says finally, after that single, long moment has passed like an eternity, leaving you feeling almost dazed by its duration, is that creating colors from scratch can be just as much art as science. The room returns to life slowly around her words. You find yourself taking a deep breath in unison with Amina's voice, letting your eyes drift back into focus on the world within reach, which is now this dimly lit shop filled with scents and sounds that feel almost like memories from another lifetime. For a moment longer, you remain suspended between two worlds, one where time moves at its own pace according to shadows cast by sunbeams filtering through grimy windows, and another where hours tick away relentlessly outside, governed solely by the beat of your heart against your chest. As you float between worlds, your gaze drifts back to the familiar rhythms of the past. You find yourself standing in a cramped workshop, surrounded by wooden dyeing vats and half-finished baskets woven from reeds that line the nearby Cydnus River. The air is thick with the scent of pomegranate juice and olive oil, which your master dyer has been experimenting with to create an unparalleled shade of crimson for the finest Punic tunics. Your hands, still suspended in midair as if frozen by some unseen force, had just finished helping your master carefully mix a concoction of madder root and logwood. The resulting dye was nothing short of miraculous, rich, deep reds that seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy on the fabric they touched. Your thoughts begin to wander back to this workshop as you recall the countless afternoons spent learning the intricacies of natural dyes from your master's patient hands. She would often tell stories about her own youth in Sicily, where she'd watch her mother dye woolen fabrics using plants gathered from the surrounding hills. These tales were infused with a deep sense of tradition and respect for the land. As you begin to lose yourself in these memories, the world around you starts to take shape once more. The workshop comes into focus. Your master stands beside one of the wooden vats, carefully stirring its contents while gazing at something on her hand, an object that appears almost like a polished stone but with intricate etchings. You recognize it as the prized possession she'd obtained from a fellow dyer who had traveled to Egypt in search of new dyeing secrets. What is this? You ask aloud, trying to recall your own name and identity within this ancient world. Your master looks up, startled by the sudden break in the silence that usually governed her workshop. Ah, my young apprentice, she says with a warm smile, as if greeting an old friend rather than someone who's just materialized out of thin air. You've been practicing your mixing again. Good work on the proportions. She pauses for a moment before handing you a small pouch filled with dried herbs and plant matter. Today we're going to make something new, she announces excitedly. Something that will surpass anything I've ever seen before, a dye so vibrant it'll never fade in sunlight or with time. Your heart starts racing at the prospect of creating such an innovation. You feel a surge of excitement mixed with trepidation as you remember your role within this workshop and the responsibility to master these ancient techniques. Together, you begin preparing for another day filled with experimentations, poring over dusty scrolls containing secrets passed down through generations of Carthaginian dyers, discussing theories about light absorption, color theory, and material properties. With each passing moment, reality becomes more tangible, as if your presence in this world is gradually accepted by the land itself. However, there's something on your mind that continues to nag you, an unspoken question or memory that refuses to resurface despite trying to recall every detail of life within these ancient walls. The uncertainty lingers like a shadow at the edge of perception, waiting for its moment to reassert itself into the world of shadows and light. For now, though, it's time to focus on creating something truly remarkable, a dye that would never fade. The scent of fresh olive oil wafts through the air, a familiar comfort that greets you as you enter the small workshop. The smell is so strong it makes your eyes water slightly, but it's a welcome sensation after the stale air of the nearby forum. You take in a deep breath, feeling the coolness fill your lungs, and glance around at the various containers and baskets on display. In one corner, a young apprentice named Hannibal is carefully stirring a large vat of dye, his face intent as he tries to coax out just the right shade. He glances up occasionally to check the progress against the nearby color chart tacked to the wall, an impressive spread of hues that seem almost otherworldly in their vibrancy. His master Sibylla watches over him with a critical eye, her hands clasped behind her back as she evaluates each successive batch. Sibylla is known for her unwavering standards and attention to detail. Only the finest ingredients are used here, and every step of the dyeing process is carried out with meticulous care. You've heard tell that even the smallest imperfections can render an entire batch unusable, a prospect both humbling and fascinating, given the intricate dance between chemistry and artistry. To one side of you lies a large basket overflowing with freshly harvested pomegranate rinds, their red skin glistening in the soft light filtering through the workshop's single window. The sweet scent they give off provides an intriguing counterpoint to the richer aroma of olive oil, two fragrances that somehow complement each other beautifully. A faint hum emanates from outside as a group of carts and wagons make their way slowly down the nearby street, leaving behind them a trail of dust and scattered goods. Merchants are setting up for another busy day in Carthage's great markets, vendors hawking everything from intricately woven tapestries to fresh seafood are already staking out prime spots. Your gaze drifts back to Hannibal as he delicately pours the freshly mixed dye into a series of smaller containers. Sibylla is walking over now, inspecting each container with an air both critical and benevolent, her hands lingering on the delicate pottery before moving on to check the color against the chart once more. In some ways, it's curious how small these daily routines become when you're immersed in them. Only at rare moments like this do you pause to consider just what all this care and attention might be for. The colors themselves are breathtaking. Those same vats of dye that have driven Sibylla so hard now shimmer and glow, with a light unlike anything found elsewhere. Just as Hannibal is about to pour the next batch, a faint clattering interrupts the otherwise smooth motion of his task. You glance over in time to see him stumble slightly before regaining balance. Apologies are hastily exchanged between the two young men, their supervisor's raised eyebrows still evident from across the room as they exchange quick words. Hannibal carefully sets aside his work and begins to tidy up, meticulously washing each container with a gentle touch that borders on reverence. He repeats this process multiple times before finally rinsing them under cool, running water. His eyes meet Sibylla's briefly, an almost imperceptible nod acknowledging the attention she paid him. It is not just one mistake, but repeated mishaps like these that make life as an apprentice so challenging. Yet each attempt also serves to hone skills and discipline. These moments will shape Hannibal into a master craftsman in time. His understanding of color theory deepens with every failure, each misstep slowly transformed through patience and hard work. Your eyes have wandered again, this time drifting toward the nearby stack of fine linens being carefully folded by an elderly woman named Amara. Her hands move deftly as she works to prepare fabrics for market. You see a series of perfectly square pieces being tucked away into intricately woven baskets, each one reflecting a subtle harmony between texture and pattern. Amara, a skilled weaver in her own right before injury forced her retirement from the loom, is now content with creating beautiful linens. As she folds another piece of fabric with gentle precision, you catch glimpses of a life long past amidst the quiet gestures, the echoes of skill honed over years spent weaving intricate designs into cloth. You've heard whispers about Amara's once reverberating voice. Some say it could charm even the most stubborn of customers at market. There was talk, too, that her loom, with its carefully carved wooden frame and delicate threads, had a way of singing under her touch, but such stories are mere speculation now. The workshop falls silent for an instant as Sibylla inspects one final container. She sets it down carefully beside the others before moving to where Hannibal still stands at work. Together they exchange quiet words about color ratios and potential outcomes, their discussion flowing like a smooth stream that doesn't appear particularly eventful, but holds within it all sorts of hidden implications. As you continue observing these everyday routines, watching Amara's nimble fingers weave through fabric, noting the rich colors unfolding as each new dye is applied to waiting threads, listening for snippets about Sibylla and Hannibal's conversation, a particular thought begins forming at the back of your mind. What if this small workshop, tucked away in Carthage like so many other forgotten tales, might hold within it secrets that have been quietly overlooked by history itself? As you sit among the shadows, listening intently for any hint of Sibylla's conversation with Hannibal, your mind begins to wander through the labyrinthine streets of Carthage. The sounds and smells of the city envelop you, the sweet scent of fresh bread wafting from nearby ovens, the murmur of merchants haggling over prices, the clang of hammer on anvil echoing from a blacksmith's forge. You feel the weight of history bearing down upon you, as if the very foundations of this ancient metropolis are whispering secrets in your ear. You glance around at the people surrounding you, Sibylla and Hannibal lost in their conversation, the workshop owner absorbed in his work, other patrons huddled over scrolls or engaged in heated debates. Each face tells a story, yet they remain mere silhouettes against the backdrop of Carthage's forgotten tales. You notice an elderly woman sitting by herself near the corner of the room. Her eyes seem to hold a depth of knowledge that belies her advanced years, lines etched on her face like ancient scrolls worn smooth by time and handling. She appears lost in thought, but you catch her gazing at Sibylla with a hint of curiosity. Your gaze drifts back to Hannibal's figure standing beside the wooden counter, gesturing animatedly as he speaks. His words are lost amidst the din of conversation, yet his passion is palpable, a zeal that borders on fervor. You wonder what topics they might be discussing in hushed tones, and whether their conversation holds any significance beyond the confines of this humble workshop. Nearby, an individual sits with head bowed over a papyrus scroll, quill poised as if ready to record some crucial detail. The flickering light from oil lamps dancing across the parchment casts eerie shadows on his face, features chiseled into sharp relief by the intense focus. His eyes are sunken, yet brightened by a fire that seems almost otherworldly. As you observe this tableau of ancient lives, a realization begins to take shape in your mind. Each person, no matter how insignificant they may seem within the grand tapestry of history, contributes their thread to the intricate weave of Carthage's story. Sibylla and Hannibal represent just two strands, their conversation intertwined with others that have long since faded from collective memory. In this forgotten corner of Carthage, you notice a young apprentice diligently observing his master at work on an intricately carved wooden statue. The artisan's hands move deftly as he shapes the wood into lifelike forms, a testament to generations of craftsmen honed by tradition and practice within these very walls. His eyes gleam with curiosity, yet contain a hint of uncertainty, reflecting the tension between preserving traditional techniques and embracing innovation. As you continue observing this ensemble cast from Carthage's forgotten pages, your thoughts gravitate toward the city itself, its layers of history etched like a palimpsest upon the sands of time. Beneath Hannibal's animated conversation, Sibylla's words weaving in and out of his responses, lies an unseen narrative, secrets inscribed within stone foundations or etched onto dusty scrolls waiting to be unearthed. The elderly woman by herself catches your eye once more, her gaze now fixed intently on you. Her eyes seem to hold a deep wisdom that echoes the city's whispers. There is more than meets the eye in Carthage, hidden stories woven into its fabric, tales whispered through alleys and backstreets, their significance only revealed when seen from unexpected vantage points. Your thoughts grow lost within the labyrinth of ancient streets as you ponder these forgotten lives. In this twilight world where past and present converge, one truth begins to surface. Carthage is not just a city of mighty conquerors or celebrated leaders, but also that quiet tapestry woven by countless others whose names have been erased from history's pages. Within the flickering candlelight, time itself seems malleable. You feel suspended between two eras, an era of grand ambitions and epical conquests, versus this more intimate landscape where stories unfold as whispers among friends. The city appears to be drawing you deeper into its heart, inviting you to unravel threads long hidden within the folds of Carthage's mysterious past. In this twilight world, your attention begins to focus on a single figure standing apart from the others, an elderly man sitting cross-legged at the far end of the room, surrounded by dusty scrolls and old manuscripts. His eyes seem lost in some forgotten memory, as if holding onto a fragment of a tale that once held him captive within Carthage's intricate narrative. The air seems heavy with anticipation, like a moment when history holds its breath before unfurling into new paths and possibilities. Your gaze remains fixed upon this lone figure, the threads from multiple lives converging in his quiet presence, as if leading you towards secrets hidden deep within Carthage's labyrinthine heart. In that instant, it becomes clear. Your journey will not be about uncovering some grand hero or pivotal event, but rather about tracing those unseen connections between seemingly insignificant individuals whose collective story has been quietly overlooked by history itself. The warmth of a setting sun seeps into your skin as you walk through the crowded market streets of Carthage. The air is heavy with the scent of olives, fresh from the nearby groves, and the faint tang of salt carried on the breeze from the sea. You weave past stalls selling woven baskets and intricately patterned ceramics, their colors glowing in the fading light. The sounds of haggling merchants and children's laughter fill your ears as you make your way through the throngs of people. Your eyes adjust to the warm glow of lanterns being lit along the streets, casting a golden light over everything. You pause for a moment to watch an elderly woman expertly juggling 3 large loaves of bread, her hands moving with a practiced ease that belies her age. As you continue on your way, the sounds of cooking fill your nostrils, sizzling meat, simmering stews, and the faint acrid tang of charcoal. Your stomach growls in anticipation as you pass by stands offering roasted meats and steaming pastries. You can almost smell the rich flavors wafting from the ovens at the local bakery. You are surrounded by people going about their daily lives, merchants arranging their wares, children chasing each other through the narrow alleys, and women haggling over prices for fresh produce. Everyone seems to be in a hurry, but there is an underlying sense of tranquility that pervades the market streets. You notice an elderly man sitting on his haunches near a nearby stall, carefully inspecting a batch of freshly harvested olives. As you draw closer, he looks up and catches your eye. He nods curtly before returning to his task, seemingly uninterested in engaging with anyone else. His eyes are sun-lined and creased from years of squinting into the Mediterranean sun. You can't help but wonder what stories he might tell if only he were more inclined to share them. The weight of a large jug being carried by an elderly woman nearby catches your attention. She is on her way back to her home, perhaps after visiting one of the local bakeries or food stalls. As she passes you, she gives you a nod and continues on her way. The jugs are made from thick ceramic, their handles worn smooth by years of use. You continue walking through the crowded market streets, taking in the sights and sounds around you. You notice that many people carry small clay vessels filled with olives or wine, perhaps as offerings to the gods or simply for everyday consumption. Some vendors are even selling these vessels themselves, touting their durability and value. As night begins to fall, the market stalls start to close up shop, their owners folding away tables and packing away goods. You watch a group of children playing with a makeshift ball made from rolled-up cloth, laughing and shouting as they chase each other through the winding alleys. Your thoughts wander back to that elderly man you saw earlier, still sitting on his haunches near the olive stall, inspecting the fruit one by one. What is he searching for? A specific quality in the olives, perhaps, or maybe something more elusive like a certain charm or character. You continue to explore the market streets as they quiet down with the setting of the sun. The sounds around you are now limited to an occasional shout from a vendor or a gentle hooting of night birds beginning their evening song. After what feels like hours exploring the bustling markets, you come across one last stall selling roasted meats and steaming pastries. You pause in front of it for a moment, inhaling deeply as the savory scents fill your nostrils. Your stomach growls once again as you take in the variety on offer, everything from succulent chicken to richly flavored lamb shanks. You order one small pastry filled with spiced meat and cheese, which is expertly wrapped by the vendor before being handed over to you. As you hold it in your hands, feeling its warmth radiate through the wrapping paper, you can almost smell the combination of spices inside: coriander, cumin, perhaps a hint of cinnamon. The pastry's filling tastes rich and satisfying on first bite, but there is something that catches your attention as you chew. A small piece of bone has somehow made it into the mixture, which breaks apart in your mouth with an unpleasant crunch. You continue eating for a moment longer before deciding to discreetly hand it over to someone nearby, perhaps not wanting to draw attention to yourself. You realize now that even amidst all these sights and smells, there are moments when something goes awry, like this small bone somehow ending up in the pastry filling. Yet such minor setbacks do little to detract from your overall sense of wonder at being immersed within a world so different from anything you've ever known before. As night deepens over Carthage's bustling markets, it becomes increasingly clear that despite all these vibrant scenes unfolding around you, there are still many unknowns hidden beneath the surface. As you weave through the crowded markets, the scent of fresh bread and roasting meats wafts through the air, enticing your senses and making your stomach growl with hunger. The vendors call out to passers-by, touting their wares in a cacophony of languages: Phoenician, Greek, Punic, and Latin, as merchants from across the Mediterranean congregate here. You watch in awe as a young woman expertly juggles a tray laden with golden dates, olives, and fragrant herbs, her movements a blur as she navigates through the throng. Your stomach growls louder now, protesting your prolonged absence from dinner. As you search for something to satiate your hunger, your eyes land on a stall piled high with an assortment of exotic delicacies: spices from India, honey from Egypt, and dried fruits that seem almost otherworldly in their color and texture. A vendor, noticing your interest, beckons you over. "Welcome, traveler. You look like someone who appreciates the finer things in life," he says with a warm smile, his eyes twinkling behind thick-rimmed glasses. "Try some of our specialty dried dates soaked in wine from the Balearic Isles." He holds out a small sample, garnished with a sprig of fresh rosemary. Your curiosity gets the better of you, and you take a bite. The sweetness explodes on your tongue, followed by a tangy aftertaste that's both refreshing and intoxicating. For a moment, all worries about food poisoning or poisonous ingredients are forgotten as you revel in the pure joy of taste. But as the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the market stalls, a different kind of unease begins to creep over you. Rumors have been circulating for weeks, whispers of mysterious illnesses afflicting those who have indulged too freely at certain gatherings or consumed specific types of food. At first, it seemed like mere gossip, but as more people fall ill and some even succumb to their conditions, the talk becomes harder to dismiss. A young merchant leans in close, his voice barely above a whisper. I know someone who's been investigating these incidents, he says cautiously. She thinks there might be something deliberately laced into certain foods, perhaps by those opposed to our way of life or seeking revenge for past losses. Your mind reels with possibilities as you scan the market stalls, searching for any sign of trouble brewing beneath the surface. The vendor's eyes lock onto yours once more, and he nods in understanding. Be careful what you eat, traveler, he advises gravely before returning to his duties with an air of quiet concern etched on his face. As night deepens further, casting a dark blue hue over Carthage, the crowds begin to dissipate. The vendors pack up their wares, and some of them exchange hushed conversations that you strain to overhear. A shadowy figure lurks at the edge of your vision, tall, imposing, and clad in nondescript attire. What draws him here? Is he a concerned citizen or someone with more sinister intentions? The sounds of laughter and conversation from nearby taverns grow louder as night descends fully upon Carthage's markets. Your thoughts swirl between enjoyment at the vibrant atmosphere and unease over potential dangers lurking beneath its surface. In this city where commerce meets culture, nothing seems quite what it appears to be, not even something as seemingly innocuous as a meal. The scent of fresh dough wafts through the air, carrying with it the promise of a mid-morning snack. You follow the aroma to the nearby bakery, where a young woman named Clia carefully shapes a batch of round, golden bread loaves. The sun streams in through the open door, casting a warm glow on the rows of clay vessels and woven baskets that line the shelves. The wooden counter creaks beneath your hands as you place an order for 3 of the freshly baked flatbreads, the ones with the delicate rose petal pattern etched into their edges. Clia's eyes sparkle with amusement as she wraps each bread in a sheet of parchment paper, securing them with thin strips of woven papyrus. The sound of sizzling meat and simmering sauces drifts from the nearby food stalls, mingling with the smell of baking bread to create a sensory overload that is both intoxicating and overwhelming. You take your flatbreads outside into the bustling streets, navigating through the crowds of merchants and traders as you make your way back to your quarters. The air is thick with the smells of exotic spices, cumin, coriander, cardamom, carried on the breaths of passers-by. You pause for a moment at the edge of the forum, watching as a group of city guardsmen practice their swordplay in preparation for an upcoming festival. The sound of clashing steel and grunting exertion fills the air, punctuated by the occasional shout from one of the onlookers. A small crowd has gathered to watch, drawn in by the spectacle of men wielding gleaming blades and leather-wrapped shields. You notice a few of them are wearing intricately woven armbands, adorned with tiny symbols that seem to reflect their family crests or patron deities. Clia's flatbreads remain tantalizingly close at hand, but you're distracted by the commotion in the forum. As you watch the sword play, your stomach growls, a gentle reminder of why you ordered those breads in the first place. You take a moment to break off a small piece and taste it, warm, fragrant, slightly sweet. The crowd begins to disperse as the guardsmen call out for a short recess, allowing onlookers to grab their own snacks or simply stand back from the mayhem. As you wait in line at one of the nearby food stalls, its offerings include steaming bowls of spicy soup and skewers of roasted vegetables. You notice an elderly man sitting on a nearby bench. He's hunched over, his hands grasping for something hidden beneath his cloak. His eyes are sunken, but they sparkle with a quiet intensity as he catches your gaze. For a moment, the two of you simply regard each other, him holding onto some secret and you waiting to be let in on it. A faint hint of lavender wafts from the man's direction, carried on his breath, a fragrance that doesn't quite fit among the pungent aromas of the city. As he glances down at his hands once more, his fingers tighten around whatever is hidden beneath his cloak. He looks up again, this time with an almost imperceptible nod towards you. It's as if he wants to communicate something, perhaps even a secret about what lurks beneath Carthage's new foundations, but the moment passes without him speaking a word. The guardsmen reassemble for another round of swordplay, and the crowd presses in once more. The smell of roasting vegetables drifts back into focus as you place your order at the food stall. 3 skewers of tender eggplant, drizzled with olive oil and sprinkled with crumbled feta cheese. You take a bite, savoring the flavors as you watch the scene unfold before you, guardsmen clashing steel, merchants hawking their wares, citizens going about their daily business. A faint sound drifts through the air, muffled footsteps coming from deeper within your own quarters. Someone's making an effort to be quiet, but it's clear they don't quite know how. The sound grows louder as whoever is moving, presumably a young child or servant, reaches the threshold of your living area. You watch with growing curiosity as a small figure emerges into view, a girl no more than 10 winters old, carrying a large bundle slung over her shoulder and clutching something in each hand. Her eyes are wide with excitement as she spots you, but they narrow slightly when she takes in the food still clutched in your hands. She pauses at the edge of the room, looking like a hesitant bird about to take flight, before finally deciding on some silent gesture that allows her access to pass through and set down whatever it is she's carrying. The sound of heavy pottery comes next, jugs being placed upon shelves or stacked against walls, clattering softly as they settle. You watch the girl work for several moments, taking in every detail from the way she moves with a quiet determination, almost as if trying to prove something to her deliberate arrangement of each item according to its shape and size. It's clear that whatever task has brought this child into your quarters is important, vital even. Her back remains turned towards you for a moment longer, but eventually she freezes mid-motion, letting out a soft intake of breath as if anticipating what might come next. You can feel her tension like an unlit candle, waiting to be lit by some spark or other. The air hangs heavy with anticipation in that instant before. The air hangs heavy with anticipation in that instant before. And then, like a whispered secret shared between two old friends, the tension is broken. A faint scratching sound echoes through the narrow alleyway, growing louder as whatever has made it approaches. The woman's eyes flicker towards the source of the noise, her gaze sharpening like the point of a dagger. As she stands frozen in place, the soundscape around her shifts and morphs to accommodate the new development. Birds falter in mid-song, hesitant to fill the sudden silence that follows the scratching sound's crescendo. The air stills further, compressing itself into an almost tangible weight that presses down on all who dwell within its bounds. Then, without warning, a small, furry creature darts out from the shadows cast by the alleyway's crumbling walls. It is a rat, but one unlike any you have seen before, for it is not alone in being animate with life. Something else moves beneath its fur, something that writhes and twists like a living serpent coiled around its diminutive form. The woman takes an involuntary step back as the creature scurries past her feet, its presence imbuing the air with a subtle yet undeniable sense of malevolence. The scratching sound has ceased now, replaced by a low-pitched thrumming that seems to emanate from within the rat itself, like the gentle buzzing of a harp string plucked in secret. You feel your skin prickle at this revelation. What lurks beneath the city's foundations is not some ancient evil awakened by Rome's siege engines or treacherous ground, but something far more insidious. This creature carries a darkness within it, one that seems almost deliberate, as if whatever dwells inside has been coaxed from its slumber by some purposeful catalyst. The woman's initial recoil now becomes curiosity, her eyes fixed intently on the rat as it pauses at the alleyway's far end to glance back over its shoulder. In this fleeting moment of connection with the creature, you sense that she understands something fundamental about what has transpired, that beneath Carthage's surface lies a web of interconnected lives, each linked by unseen threads and hidden pathways. As the rat vanishes into the narrow passageway beyond, carrying with it an unspoken promise or warning, your thoughts drift back to the city above. Here in this cramped alleyway nestled between towering buildings and bustling market stalls, you sense a microcosm of Carthage itself, a place where ancient traditions blend seamlessly with foreign influences, creating a unique tapestry that has become synonymous with resilience. And yet, something beneath it all stirs. A presence so profound, its reverberations are felt even in these dark recesses. The city's pulse beats strong and true, but what lies hidden within its core remains an enigma waiting to be unraveled. You continue your observation of this peculiar scene, intrigued by the silent understanding shared between woman and creature, a bond forged from shared experiences that transcend words. What follows is not clear at first. Only when you look more closely do you notice how her hand instinctively drifts towards the pouch attached to her belt, the one containing small offerings left on thresholds for benevolent spirits. In this moment, something about her posture changes, shoulders squared, eyes squinting with newfound resolve. A spark of defiance ignites within those depths, a glimmer that defies the uncertainty lingering over Carthage as the city struggles to survive under Rome's relentless onslaught. The warmth of a late afternoon sun seeps into your skin, carrying with it the scent of roasting olives and freshly baked bread wafting from the nearby oven. You are standing in the bustling streets of Carthage, surrounded by the hum of everyday life as people go about their routines. As you breathe in deeply, the aroma of cooking oil and herbs tickles your nostrils, transporting you to a time when food was not just sustenance but an experience. The smell of roasting olives is particularly potent today, drawing you to the nearby market stalls where vendors are busy arranging their wares for the day's customers. You notice the vendor, Hanno by name, expertly balancing a tray of steaming pastries on his head as he navigates through the crowded alleys. His hands move with precision, deftly adjusting the load without spilling a crumb or losing a single pastry to the pavement below. You watch in admiration as he disappears into the throng, leaving behind only the faintest hint of olive oil and the promise of more. The sun beats down on your shoulders, warming the rough stone beneath your feet. The heat is becoming intense, making every step feel like a minor effort towards achieving some unknown goal. You squint against the glare, feeling the sweat begin to trickle down your neck as you continue along the winding streets of Carthage. As you walk, the sounds of daily life surround you, children playing in the distance, the clanging of pots from kitchens nearby, and the soft murmur of conversation among passers-by. The air is thick with the smell of cooking food, but beneath it lies a layer of something else: dust, heat, and the faint tang of decay. You notice an elderly woman standing at the edge of the market, her eyes scanning the stalls as if searching for something specific. Her face creases into deep lines etched by years of sun exposure and hard work. She wears a long, pleated tunic made from coarse linen that seems to absorb every ray of sunlight, giving her an almost translucent appearance. As you watch, she spots Hanno making his way back through the crowd with a fresh batch of pastries on his tray. Her eyes light up with interest, and she begins to make her way towards him, carefully navigating between shoppers to reach the vendor's stall. The air is heavy with anticipation as she approaches, her hands clasped together in front of her chest. The heat becomes more oppressive now, weighing down your shoulders like a physical burden. You feel the sweat trickle down your face, pooling at the base of your chin before dripping onto the dusty ground below. Every step feels like an effort, every breath drawn with difficulty as if you're siphoning life itself from the air. Hanno greets the elderly woman warmly, and for a moment, they engage in animated conversation that sends them both into fits of laughter. The sound carries through the market, infectious and carefree, drawing passers-by to pause and listen. It's a brief respite from the heat and dust, a reminder that even in the midst of daily routine, there is still room for connection and joy. As you continue on your way, you notice the woman finally purchasing a small pastry from Hanno, her eyes shining with satisfaction as she takes a bite. The flavors dance on her tongue: sweet honey, earthy olives, and a hint of fresh herbs that leaves a pleasant tingle on the roof of her mouth. For an instant, time stands still around you. Everyone is frozen in their actions. Vendors holding trays aloft, shoppers pausing mid-step to breathe in the sights and smells, children's games temporarily suspended as they watch the exchange with wide eyes. The world is held together by this single moment, a shared experience of taste, smell, and connection. Oh, and then it ends. People return to their routines, vendors continue unloading their wares, and the elderly woman disappears into the crowd once more, her pastry devoured in mere moments. You're left standing there, surrounded by the sights and sounds of daily life, as if witnessing a fleeting dream that has vanished before you could grasp its edges. The sun continues to beat down on your shoulders, but now it's just another part of your surroundings, like the sound of breathing or the feel of dust beneath your feet. You're no longer noticing individual sensations. Instead, they blend together into one large tapestry of existence that is Carthage in this moment. You continue walking through the city streets, allowing yourself to become lost within its labyrinthine alleys and marketplaces. Your footsteps carry you along with the flow of daily life, past vendors calling out their wares, around clusters of people haggling over prices, and beneath the awnings that provide respite from the sun. Your path eventually leads you down a narrow alleyway lined by tall buildings, their facades worn smooth by centuries of wind and weather. The walls here are adorned with murals depicting scenes of everyday life, farmers tending to crops, fishermen hauling in nets full of fish, and artisans plying their trades. Each image is rendered in vivid detail, its colors almost three-dimensional against the backdrop of faded stone. You pause before one particular mural that catches your eye, a depiction of Carthaginian women busy with household chores, sweeping floors, pounding grain into flour, or tending to children playing at their feet. They're not shown as idealized figures, but rather in all their messy humanity, sweat-drenched faces, weary postures, and the faintest glimmer of satisfaction on each face. As you stand there taking it all in, a realization creeps over you. These people are not just subjects of a mural, they're individuals living out their lives within this very city. Each one has struggles and joys that define them as much as any grand historical event might claim to shape the course of history. The alleyway continues on ahead of you, winding deeper into Carthage's heart. You feel an almost imperceptible tug forward, a gentle reminder that there is still more to explore within these ancient walls, secrets waiting to be unearthed like hidden treasures buried beneath layers of dust and neglect. For now, however, the sun remains high overhead, its heat suffocating in your skin as you breathe in deeply once again. The scent of roasting olives wafts on the breeze, drawing you back into the everyday life that pulses through these streets. A world alive with people, smells, sounds, and textures waiting to be absorbed like a sponge. And it is here, amidst this tapestry of human experience, that your journey continues as an observer within ancient Carthage's daily rhythms. As you blend into the throng of people navigating the narrow streets, the cacophony of sounds envelops you, vendors calling out their daily specials, children laughing and chasing one another through the alleys, and the constant hum of merchants hawking their wares from stalls that line every available inch of space. The air is thick with the smells of fresh bread wafting from a nearby bakery, the pungent aroma of olives being pressed into oil at a nearby press, and the sweet scent of honeyed wine carried by a group of revelers celebrating a young couple's engagement. You dodge a hurrying cart laden with pyramids of juicy oranges as it careens through the crowd, spilling its cargo onto the cobblestones. A small child, laughing and giggling, tries to gather up the scattered fruit while his mother chases after him, scolding good-naturedly in a dialect that sounds like music to your ears. As you weave through this vibrant tapestry of human experience, you catch glimpses of life unfolding before your eyes, an elderly man sitting on a bench, patiently watching as his granddaughter attempts to thread a needle with a length of fine linen. A group of apprentices gathered around their master, listening intently as he explains the intricacies of stoneworking, and a lone traveler sitting at a small cafe, nursing a cup of wine while he scribbles in a worn leather journal. You feel your senses overwhelmed by the sheer variety of sights, sounds, and smells that assault you from every direction. Yet amidst this chaos, there's an underlying sense of rhythm, people moving with purpose, going about their daily lives without a care for what lies beyond Carthage's walls. The city seems to pulse with its own unique energy, as if the collective heartbeat of its inhabitants has created a palpable, almost tangible presence that permeates every corner. You pause at a street vendor's stall where an array of fresh produce is on display, glistening melons, crisp lettuce leaves, and an assortment of colorful vegetables. The vendor, noticing your interest, offers you a taste of the juiciest tomato he has in stock. You take it from him, savoring the explosion of flavors that erupts with each bite. As you continue through the city, the sun begins to reach its peak overhead. The air grows hotter and more oppressive, but the people around you seem entirely unfazed, even enjoying themselves as they go about their daily routines. You notice a group of young men heading towards the nearby forum, carrying small buckets filled with wine and bread for an impromptu picnic. You decide to follow them, curiosity getting the better of you. They lead you through winding alleys, past crowded market stalls selling everything from intricately woven textiles to polished silver trinkets. As they stop at a secluded spot within the forum's precincts, they spread out their makeshift blanket and begin to unpack the food. The group invites you to join them, and soon you find yourself surrounded by an impromptu gathering of Carthaginian citizens, laughing, eating, and drinking in the shade provided by a nearby temple. The conversation flows easily as they share stories of local gossip, market prices, and the latest news from their trading partners across the Mediterranean. The afternoon wears on, with nary a care or worry among this group. They seem to embody the carefree spirit that defines Carthage, embracing life's simple pleasures while living in harmony with the rhythms of the city. As you listen and laugh alongside them, it becomes clear why Carthage has become such an attractive destination for merchants, traders, and travelers alike. But even as the group finishes their meal and begins to disperse, a subtle undercurrent of unease starts to creep into your consciousness, a sense that something is amiss beneath this tranquil surface. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it's there nonetheless, like the faint tremors felt before an earthquake hits. Your hosts bid you farewell as they make their way back through the city streets, leaving you with the nagging feeling of being alone in a crowd that seemed so full and vibrant mere moments ago. You pause for a moment to take stock of your surroundings, wondering if perhaps it's just fatigue catching up with you after such an immersive journey. The sun beats down upon your face as you ponder this mystery. Was there something you missed? A hidden detail or undercurrent that flew beneath the radar of your senses? Or is it simply the product of overactive imagination? As these questions swirl through your mind, a faint whisper seems to carry on the breeze. Did they ever actually exist? The warmth of the late afternoon sun seeps into your bones as you lie down on a worn stone bench, its cool surface a gentle contrast to the heat that has been radiating from it all day. The air around you is heavy with the scent of olives and citrus, carried on the breeze from the nearby market stalls. You've spent the better part of the morning haggling over prices in the agora, trying to get a fair deal for your family's weekly groceries. Your mother had tasked you with picking up fresh bread, but it seems like every vendor wants more drachmas than she's willing to give. You're starting to feel the weight of her expectations on your shoulders. As you sit there trying to collect your thoughts and plan out the rest of the day, a nearby merchant catches your eye. He's expertly juggling 3 trays of fresh produce, grapes, figs, and olives, each one balanced precariously above his head as he navigates through the crowded market square. You can almost smell the sweetness of those grapes wafting towards you on the breeze. The merchant notices you staring and flashes a quick smile before expertly juggling the trays into an intricate dance. People around him chuckle and clap in appreciation, adding to the already lively atmosphere. As the commotion dies down, your gaze falls upon the nearby temple of Tanit, goddess of fertility and protector of Carthage's prosperity. You remember hearing stories about how she was worshipped as a great patron deity by Queen Dido herself when she founded this city centuries ago. The intricate carvings on her statue seem to tell tales of triumphs over invading armies, storms that ravaged the crops, and even a few miraculous births. The sun beats down relentlessly upon your skin now, making every surface feel like it's radiating heat from within. You squint through the haze as you take in the vibrant colors around you. Women dressed in brightly patterned tunics weave baskets of fresh fruit, while nearby men construct elaborate wooden stalls adorned with intricate carvings. The soundscape shifts subtly as a group of children pass by, their laughter and shouts carrying on the wind. A few vendors raise their voices to entice potential customers into buying more than they need, some sort of ritualized competition for attention that seems both chaotic yet endearingly familiar. Eventually, you manage to tear your gaze away from this cacophony and recall why you were sent out in the first place: getting groceries. You remember that today's market is supposed to have an assortment of fresh fish straight off the boats, which should satisfy Mother's request for dinner tonight. As you get up from the bench, feeling a bit wobbly due to the heat-induced lightheadedness, your hand brushes against something cool and solid in your pocket. It's that wooden spoon from last night's dinner. You must have forgotten it when leaving home. The metal feels slightly sticky, probably from being left near the fire. The memory of cooking with Mother flashes through your mind as vividly as if you were back there. The sizzling onions, the soft texture of tender meat falling apart, and the way her hands moved confidently around the pot while yours fumbled for balance. You recall feeling happy but a bit anxious about getting it all right. This nostalgia settles into your chest like a gentle weight, accompanied by an even greater appreciation for the people who keep you fed, from farmers tending their fields in distant regions to cooks working tirelessly behind kitchen counters. Moving through the crowded market once more, this time with a clearer sense of purpose, you finally reach that stall selling fresh seafood. As the owner expertly fillets a succulent-looking tuna on his wooden countertop, your stomach growls at the prospect of getting some dinner sorted out today after all. Your request for a few pounds is met with an amused chuckle and more haggling, this time less heated than before, mainly because both you and the vendor seem to be thinking about food rather than prices. You leave the stall satisfied, but also exhausted from navigating the intricate web of social expectations that come with buying groceries in ancient Carthage. Eventually making your way back home through winding streets lined with intricately carved stones, each bearing symbols representing various local deities or noble families. You can almost smell the aroma of roasting meat wafting through an open window, drawing you closer to a warm and cozy interior where everything should feel right again for at least one night. You push aside thoughts about dinner plans as your hand touches something else in your pocket now: A small rolled-up piece of papyrus containing notes on that mysterious text discovered by the elder scholar during last week's temple excavation. It looks like he was finally making progress deciphering its cryptic symbols, but you had to leave his workshop before they finished discussing theories about what might be hidden inside. That conversation had left you feeling both amazed and puzzled, wondering whether this text held secrets from a forgotten era or perhaps even proof of something entirely new waiting to change the course of their understanding. The mystery still lingers in your mind like an itch that's hard to scratch. As evening starts creeping over Carthage, casting shadows across cobblestone streets while soft music drifts through windows lit with flickering candlelight, you're led towards a warm glow emanating from within those walls, carrying the promise of comfort and familiarity after another eventful day in this vibrant city. Your footsteps slow down as you approach the door to your family's home. It swings open on its hinges without making much noise now that it has grown accustomed to your weight over time, like a loyal companion waiting patiently for you every evening, ready to shield you from whatever comes next outside these walls. The cool darkness of their interior envelops you gently as you step inside, an oasis in the fading light of another day spent navigating life's little puzzles amidst ancient stones. As you step further into the cool darkness of your home, the soft murmur of conversation and the clinking of dishes from the kitchen area grow louder, enveloping you in a sense of comfort and security. You've lived here all your life, but every evening still feels like an adventure as you navigate the narrow corridors and doorways that crisscross this imposing structure. Your companion waits for you by the entrance hall, their eyes fixed on yours with a quiet intensity, as if willing away any lingering worries or cares from the day. They're dressed in simple yet elegant attire, the cream-colored tunic cinched at the waist with a wide leather belt that gleams softly in the flickering torchlight. A golden pin adorns their lapel, a family crest passed down through generations of your line. "Welcome home," they say as you near them, their voice husky from disuse and familiarity. You respond with a gentle smile and an affectionate touch on the arm, feeling the familiar weight of each other's presence like a tangible anchor against the turbulent world outside these walls. Your companion leads you through to the main living area, where your family is gathered around the central hearth. The fire crackles softly, casting shadows on the walls as your parents exchange quiet words with one of their servants, a young woman who has been part of your household for several years now. She carries a tray laden with steaming dishes and glasses filled to the brim with fragrant wine from the vineyards surrounding Carthage. Your stomach growls in anticipation, but you know better than to get too carried away by the enticing aromas wafting from the food. Your father's stern expression is enough reminder that tonight is not about indulgence. Your companion hands you a cup of wine and leads you over to join the family gathering around the fire. Your parents exchange warm greetings, their faces reflecting relief at having everyone safely indoors as night begins to fall. You take a seat between them, feeling the gentle pressure of your mother's hand on your shoulder. It's an unspoken reassurance that everything will be all right. The conversation flows easily, touching on topics from the day's events in Carthage, news of trade agreements and merchant ships arriving from far-off lands, or perhaps rumors about Rome's latest forays into North Africa. But beneath these surface-level discussions lies a deeper undercurrent, concerns about security and threats from outside your city. You've grown up hearing stories about the Punic Wars with Rome, how Carthage has been beset by internal strife and pressure from neighboring powers vying for control of trade routes and resources. Your parents have always emphasized caution, urging you to be aware of potential dangers lurking beyond these walls. As dinner is served, your companion takes a seat beside you on the divan, their hand brushing against yours in reassurance. You feel a sense of peace settle over the household as everyone begins eating, savoring the flavors and textures of the meal. For tonight at least, all worries are set aside in favor of warmth, love, and connection. But even here, amidst such comfort and security, hints of unease creep into your consciousness. The flickering torchlight casts eerie shadows on the walls. You can't shake off memories from recent nights when distant sounds and murmurs carried through the corridors like a harbinger of troubles to come. Your companion seems attuned to these unspoken concerns. Their grip on your hand tightens slightly as if sensing where your thoughts are drifting. You exchange a look, both of you acknowledging that even in this sanctuary, shadows from outside still lurk and whisper secrets into the night air. For now, however, those worries will be set aside with dinner. It's time to focus on more immediate pleasures. Laughter, conversation, and the joyous camaraderie shared among family members gathered around the fire. The faint scent of roasted fish wafts through the evening air, carrying with it the promise of a warm meal shared among loved ones. You are sitting on a narrow bench outside your family's modest dwelling in Carthage, watching as your mother expertly turns the sizzling fish on an iron griddle suspended over a small fire. The smell of char and oil mingles with the savory aroma of herbs and spices, making your stomach growl with anticipation. As you wait for dinner to be ready, you take in the tranquil scene before you. The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow across the rooftops and the narrow alleyways between them. The stars are beginning to twinkle overhead, their gentle sparkle reflecting off the calm surface of nearby Lake Tunis. Your mother's hands move deftly as she seasons the fish with a pinch of salt and a sprinkle of dried thyme. You recognize the recipe from memory. It's one your grandmother used to make when you were younger, though now that she's gone, the responsibility has fallen on your mother's shoulders. The fire crackles softly as your father stirs the embers, adding more wood to keep the flames burning steadily. The flickering light casts shadows across his face, making him look older than he actually is. He catches you watching and offers a gentle smile, but says nothing, just continues with his task of keeping warm. As dinner nears completion, your family gathers around the table outside their dwelling. You've helped set it up earlier in the day, placing fine linen on top of woven mats to create a makeshift surface for eating. Candles are lit and placed along the edges of the table, casting pools of light that dance across the faces of those gathered. Your brother leans over from his side of the table, whispering something in your ear about an upcoming festival. You've heard rumors it will feature chariot racing, but your mother has cautioned against betting on any outcomes. You play along with a knowing smile and a shake of your head, not wanting to stir up unnecessary discussion. Conversation flows easily among family members as dinner is served. Laughter echoes through the evening air as your sister regales everyone with stories from her day at school. You recognize some of the teachers by name but can't quite recall their faces. Your parents exchange fond glances when she gets particularly animated, and for a moment it feels like nothing else matters. As dinner draws to a close, there's an unspoken understanding that passes between family members about what needs to be said and done next week, something related to the temple, but no one wants to talk about it yet. The conversation takes on a delicate quality as everyone tries not to mention names or dates too loudly. For now, however, those worries will remain unvoiced until after dinner. For tonight at least, they'll be set aside in favor of enjoying each other's company and the simple pleasures that come with sharing meals together. You lean back against your bench, watching as your mother carries a platter of leftovers into the dwelling. The evening air cools slightly now that the sun has dipped below the horizon, but you're too comfortable to get up yet. Besides, someone else will do the cleanup later tonight. You let out a contented sigh as you feel the cool breeze rustle your hair, carrying with it the scent of freshly baked bread wafting from the nearby bakery. Your stomach growls in anticipation, and you know that soon the evening meal will be served. You've grown accustomed to the simple pleasures in life here in Carthage, a city built on the edge of the sea, where trade and commerce flow like the Tiber River back home. Your mother Anna sets down the platter with a gentle thud, her dark hair tied up in a neat bun as she surveys the gathered family. Your siblings, Hanno and Tasman, are engaged in a heated game of senet on a nearby mat, their dice clattering against each other in rhythmic cadence. Come eat, Anna calls out, gesturing for you to join them at the low table set with terracotta bowls and clay cups. You slip off your bench, feeling the rough stone beneath your feet as you make your way over. Your stomach growls louder now that food is within reach, a savory stew made from last night's leftovers, simmered in a flavorful broth infused with herbs and spices. As you sit down, Anna begins to ladle out generous portions for each of you, the sounds of clinking pottery mingling with your family's chatter. The evening meal is always a time for conversation, not just about politics or trade routes, but also stories from the day's travels or gossip passed on by merchants and travelers who stop at our household. Hanno leans in to tell a tale of his adventures as a young soldier, stationed near the city walls where he witnessed an impressive siege engine being tested. Tasman listens with wide eyes, her ears perked up for any mention of battles against the Romans, though Anna quickly steers him back on track by reminding them that they should focus more on their education and trade skills. You take a moment to appreciate your mother's efforts in preparing this meal, thinking about how she always makes sure there is enough food for everyone. The leftovers will be rationed carefully over the next few days, another reminder of the hard work that goes into maintaining our household. As you help yourself to more stew and bread, Anna sets aside a small portion on your plate. Eat well, she says with a knowing smile, her eyes warm with affection. You've been working long hours at the shipyard these past few weeks. Your thoughts turn back to that, your apprenticeship under the guidance of Gamel's experienced hands. The harbor is bustling this time of year, as ships prepare for their maiden voyages from Carthage into the Mediterranean trade routes. Your father had high hopes that you'd follow in his footsteps one day and become a skilled shipwright or captain. You glance over at your siblings, who are now engaged in a heated debate about which local temple is superior, Dido's grand mausoleum in Biasa Hill or the more modest temple dedicated to Tanit, goddess of fertility. Their words blend together as you focus on eating and listening to Anna tell stories from her childhood in Utica. The evening wears on with laughter and storytelling that spills into songs sung by Tasman, a tuneful voice inherited from their father's side. Hanno starts strumming an accompanying lyre, the melodies echoing off the walls of our modest dwelling as you all join in for one last chorus before dinner is finished. With full bellies and replete with conversation, your family settles back into their respective activities, Anna to her needlework on a patch of worn fabric, while Hanno and Tasman retreat into another game. You remain at the table for a little longer, sipping from a cup filled with cool water that carries hints of mint. Outside, night begins to fall in earnest now that the stars are visible above, constellations etched against an inky blue canvas like old friends waiting to be discovered again tomorrow night. Tomorrow's another day in Carthage, full of its own routines and potential surprises. As I stepped out into the evening air, the scent of mint on my skin was a gentle reminder of the rituals that governed our daily lives in Carthage. The city's rhythms were as predictable as the stars above, markets filled with the vibrant colors and sounds of traders from across the Mediterranean. Women gathered at public baths to gossip and share secrets. Young boys played games like Pedea, their laughter carrying on the breeze. I slipped into the throng of pedestrians flowing through the narrow streets, my sandals clicking against the cobblestones. Tonight's routine was simple. A quick visit to the family's temple dedicated to Baal Hammon, followed by dinner at home with my parents and siblings. But as I navigated the crowded alleys, I couldn't help but feel an undercurrent of unease. Word had begun circulating about the troubles in Rome, whispers of rebellion and civil war that threatened our fragile balance of power across the Mediterranean. My father, a respected merchant with connections to Phoenician traders, spoke often of the risks these conflicts posed for Carthage's commerce and security. As I walked through the city's vibrant heart, however, it was hard to imagine such turmoil reaching our shores. A friend, Lucius, fell into step beside me as we made our way toward the temple. He nodded discreetly toward a group of elderly men huddled near the base of the Baal Hammon statue. Their faces were etched with concern and they spoke in low tones, glancing about nervously. Lucius leaned closer. "Oh, did you hear? They've been acting strangely since yesterday morning," he whispered, his eyes scanning our surroundings as if searching for potential listeners. "Some folks say it's the gods themselves warning us of a coming calamity." I smiled and shook my head. "Just old men with too much wine on their minds, Lucius." But even I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. The city seemed to be holding its breath as if waiting for an announcement. The temple loomed ahead, its imposing structure a symbol of our devotion to Baal Hammon and Tanit. We slipped into the dim interior, the air thick with incense and the scent of offerings left by previous worshippers. I lit a candle before the altar, offering a silent prayer that we might be spared from any troubles brewing across the sea. The walk back home was filled with the tantalizing aromas wafting from nearby kitchens, olive oil infused with garlic, fresh fish sizzling over open flames. My stomach growled in anticipation as I pushed through the doorway into our small courtyard, where my mother stood at a clay oven stirring the contents of a simmering stew. "Ah, child. Dinner's almost ready," she said, smiling warmly and giving me a gentle pat on the cheek. "Your father will be home soon. He promised to bring back some news from the port." I smiled in response, but my mind still lingered on those murmured whispers of war and rebellion that seemed to echo through every corner of our city. The evening air continued its quiet descent into night as we sat down together around a table laden with food. I pushed aside thoughts of troubles beyond Carthage's borders. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges after all. For now, the simple pleasures of family life and warm company were enough to fill my heart with gratitude. As dinner was finished and the evening drew on, our household settled into familiar routines. The sound of my sister playing lyre in a corner, the soft hum of conversation between my parents as they pored over scrolls from Rome and Tyre. But even amidst this comforting tranquility, I couldn't shake off an insistent feeling that there was something more to be said about the darkness gathering across the sea. As night deepened, casting Carthage in shadows, our household retired for rest, each person carrying their own silent concerns into sleep's stillness. And though we knew not what tomorrow would bring, one truth remained clear. For all its beauty and vitality, this city was never truly at peace when war loomed on the horizon. Tomorrow's sun would rise over Carthage as before, but with it, our fate would begin to take shape in ways none of us could anticipate. The scent of frankincense wafts through the air, carried by a gentle breeze that stirs the reeds swaying above the sacred precincts of Tanit. You breathe in deeply, feeling the familiar tang of incense on your tongue and the subtle sweetness of honeyed wine lingering beneath it. As you stand before the Temple of Tanit, its imposing stone facade looms above you like a guardian watching over the city's most revered shrine. The sun has begun to set, casting long shadows across the terracotta rooftops that spill out into the narrow alleys beyond. A lone bird trills in the nearby palm tree, breaking the stillness. You've been here before many times, in fact. This is your favorite time of day, just after sunset when the sacred precincts are quiet and you can take a moment to reflect on the day's events. The air cools with each passing hour, carrying away some of the city's stifling heat. The temple priestess emerges from her quarters, a soft lantern in hand that casts flickering shadows across the courtyard stones. She approaches you with a gentle smile and hands over a small flask filled with a rich amber liquid, olive oil infused with myrrh, carefully prepared by her own skilled hands. You take it gratefully, feeling its cool weight against your skin. The temple's high priestess has always been kind to you. She knows that the daily routine of tending the sacred flame and performing rituals can be a daunting task in itself. As you cap the flask, you catch a glimpse of yourself reflected in the polished bronze mirror propped on a nearby column. An untidy coil of hair is escaped from its binding, framing your worn face like a wispy wreath. With the priestess's blessing, you make your way back through the precincts to rejoin your fellow priests and priestesses. They are gathered around a low-burning fire that casts a warm glow across their faces as they share stories of their day's work, from tending to the sacred olive trees to collecting offerings from devotees. One among them, a young initiate named Salamis, leans against a nearby pillar with an air of quiet exhaustion. You notice that her eyes seem sunken, and her usual bright smile seems slightly subdued today. As she speaks about her day's labors, you catch the faint scent of sweat on her skin. It's clear she hasn't yet had time to bathe or change into fresh robes. You exchange a sympathetic glance with another priestess who has also noticed Salamis' fatigue. Together, you offer words of encouragement and remind each other that today was just one day amidst many in the long cycle of festivals and rituals. Tomorrow will bring its own share of challenges and joys. The group continues to chat in hushed tones as night deepens outside. Candles flicker like tiny suns within lanterns placed about the precinct, casting pools of warm light upon your gathered faces. It's moments like these that you cherish, when time slows down a little and all concerns seem forgotten except for the sacred task at hand, tending to Tanit, goddess of the moon. Your gaze roams around the group as they share their stories, but it eventually settles on Salamis once more. You consider offering your flask of olive oil with myrrh. Sometimes a gentle gesture can remind someone that even in difficult times, there is still comfort and peace to be found within this quiet sanctuary. However, just then the sound of footsteps echoes from outside, the soft clomping of sandals on stone as one of the city's messengers approaches. He carries an urgent air with him, his features tense beneath the flickering candlelight as he speaks in hushed tones with a senior priestess nearby. For a moment the group falls silent, all eyes turn toward the messenger, who pauses before speaking further into the darkness outside the temple precincts just out of earshot. The atmosphere shifts within your small sanctuary, from one of quiet camaraderie to something more purposeful and uncertain. As you listen intently for any whispers or murmurs that might carry back on the breeze, a faint whisper seems almost imperceptible on the wind. It's as if someone outside has said, Tanit. Tomorrow in hushed tones. It's barely audible, but somehow the word carries a weight of its own. The stillness within the precincts persists for what feels like an eternity before one of the senior priests finally breaks the silence with a gentle nod toward Salamis and another nearby initiate. Without explanation, you follow their lead in gathering your belongings, making quiet preparations to take on tonight's tasks, whatever they may be. As the temple grows quieter once more, only the distant sounds from outside serve as reminders of an uncertain tomorrow. In this peaceful refuge within Carthage, amidst flickering candles and shadows cast by its revered shrines, you find yourself carried forward into a new day filled with mysteries waiting to unfold. But for now, at least, in these twilight hours, all seems right with the world. The scent of frankincense still lingers on your skin as night claims Carthage outside. Within this sanctuary, it's just another evening shared among devoted hearts. Tonight you've traveled through a veil of mist that lifted the scent of incense and sacrifice from the city's temples, carried on tides of memory to the breakfast tables where war was already being planned. Shadows danced across the faces of record keepers who knew too much, their whispers echoing down the corridors of time like distant fires burning low in the darkness. The threads of history tangled together like seaweed caught in a receding tide as we followed the trail of missing statues and forbidden dyes, while three forgotten souls slipped into the margins of recorded time. And yet, beneath it all, there pulsed a rhythm that connected every event to every other, a heartbeat that spoke of resistance, resilience, and the quiet determination to survive. At its core, this journey has been about the unseen stories that shape civilizations, the whispers in the dark, the secrets kept hidden from prying eyes. It's a testament to the power of memory to transcend even the most brutal erasure, to leave behind only fragments that can be pieced together by those who listen closely. If you'd like to keep exploring, you can gently tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey. And if you feel awake enough, leave a comment and share where in the world you're listening from. As you settle into your own quiet place, let these images begin to fade like embers dying out, their outlines softening against the darkness. Allow yourself to release any grasp on what we've discovered tonight. Let it sink beneath the surface of thought, carried down by the slow tides of sleep. The earth itself remembers everything. In its patient heart, time is a river that flows both forward and backward. And so you become one with the ancient stones, their stories merging into the silence as the world outside grows quiet once more.